Okay. This is Geek News Central. My name is Todd Cochran, coming to you from the New Media Production Studio. The lead stories are President Biden says Facebook isn't killing people, but misinformation causes harm. The U.S. Surgeon General doubles down on the blame game. China is being blamed for the Microsoft Exchange hack. And of course, Apple employees don't want to come back to the office. And tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., Jeff Bezos goes to space. I want to welcome you to episode 1541 of the Geek News Central podcast for Monday, July 19th. This show is sponsored in part by GoDaddy.com and listeners just like you. Great deals from GoDaddy can be found at geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy. You can support this show today at geeknewscentral.com/insider. Hey, I want to give a warm welcome to all the new listeners of the show. Thanks for being here. Make sure you get over to geeknewscentral.com. Check out the website, subscribe to the podcast, read the articles, get hooked up with the newsletter. All those links are in the show notes and or on the sidebar of the webpage. If you're signed up for our newsletter, you'll get the show notes delivered directly to your inbox immediately following the show. It'll contain everything that I talk about. That way you don't have to visit the website. You get it there in one full swoop. Of course, again, subscribe to the show right there on the website, whatever your poison may be. And you can join our chat room at geeknews.chat. That's a Mastodon chat server, our Discord channel as well. And, of course, we're on Slack. But today, we're streaming all over the place. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, a couple of places on Facebook. So wherever you may be connecting, thanks for being here. Hey, you can always contact me via email. It's easy, geeknews@gmail.com, geeknews@gmail.com, or on Twitter @geeknews. And, of course, you can follow me on Facebook. All my partner shows are linked at geeknewscentral.com. Check them out, the New Media Show, the Pro Gear Guru site, the Gadget Professor, the Podcast Legend Show, and GNC Week in Review. Done by, of course, our exclusive executive producer, Kurt Corliss, who did a great job getting content ready for tonight's show. So definitely want to thank Kurt for that. And, of course, his show is going gangbusters. But more importantly, this show is sponsored by our good friends at GoDaddy at geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy, where you can find significant savings and deals. Those deals and savings really are found again at geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy. You can save up to 90% on products and services, 30% off new product purchases, $4.99 on new or transferred or new customers. $4.99.com for new or transferred domains for a new customer. Can I say that 5 times any faster? And, of course, the $1 a month economy hosting for the first year with a free domain, $1 a month managed WordPress hosting for the first year with a free domain, the two best hosting deals in the space, and that's where you really get up to 90% off. That's where you engage that. Of course, free trial to GoDaddy Website Builder, your choice of personal business or business plus plan. That's a 1-month free trial. And definitely, come on, get over there, save some money, support the sponsor, support this show. When you do that, you help me pay the electricity bill. You help me pay insurance. In the winter, you pay for the gas, the rent, everything that goes on to being able to do what we do here. And I want to thank GoDaddy for being a longtime sponsor. I had a good expose talking about, basically how the show was sponsored in previous podcasts. But, of course, Chris Redlinger, who was my original rep, has retired from GoDaddy. Talked about that on the last show. So thank you for the emails that came in on that, and the commentary is greatly appreciated. But anyway, that's where we're at. And I want to thank GoDaddy for, again, being a longtime sponsor here. So, hey, on the last, wait a second. Let me get you caught up. It rained Friday, Saturday, and then it got nice yesterday. And amongst all this, my sister and myself and my mom were having this discussion about what I've talked about already on the show a couple times, this little itching thing I've got going on. And my sister's convinced. She says, I don't care what the doctors say, it's jiggers. And I'm like, it's impossible. How could it be? And, well, anyway, hey, I'm at at all options, out of options. So today, those of you that are watching, I'm painted up. In any place I've got a little spot, I have applied pink lipstick. Yes, pink lipstick. My legs are, could be a rainbow of colors. But we're going to see. We're going to see. The 2 doctors said no, it's not chiggers. So who knows? We'll see what happens. But that's anyway. That's the new experiment that I'm running. I do want to talk just a little bit before I get started on the show. I did have only one comment that came in. One of our listeners was not happy about me talking about what he considered to be political commentary about the situation with the White House calling for newspapers, social media to censor certain individuals and to also combat misinformation. And I want you to think, and this is all about, they're not hitting their vaccine numbers. And let me just back up. And again, first of all, if you've got vaccinated, that's your choice, your body, your choice, right? If you have or you haven't, I'm not here to judge. That's a personal decision, okay? But I want you also to think back that the anti-vaccine message was started by many in the current administration. The most well-known anti-vaccine voice was at the time, back in November, was Vice President Kamala Harris. When she kicked up a firestorm, when she said she wouldn't trust or take a vaccine coming out of the Trump administration. And I say this as a quote, this is what she said: "There's very little we can trust that comes out of Donald Trump's mouth. So no, I would not trust his words," says Democratic Vice President nominee Senator Kamala Harris at the time, when asked by CNN's Dana Bash whether she trusted a vaccine coming out of the Trump administration. Bash says, "Let's just say there's a vaccine is approved and even distributed before the election. Would you get it?" Harris says, "Well, I think that's going to be an issue for all of us. I will say that I would not trust Donald Trump. I will not take his word for it." So you have the own vice president candidate at the time making commentary about not trusting the vaccine. Her comments were shared and even applauded by many outlets, including the Daily Kos. Daily Kos said Kamala Harris wouldn't trust a Trump vaccine, and neither should anyone else. Well, all the vaccines that we have been taking came from the previous administration. She would later take that message to the 2020 vice presidential debate, noting she wouldn't take the vaccine if it was recommended by the president. Then Vice President Mike Pence charged her with trying to undermine public confidence in the vaccine. So you had individuals, even the governor of New York, said his health officials review any federally-approved COVID-19 vaccine because he doesn't trust the Trump administration to deliver a safe and effective one. That's called a threat. That's called, "I will put New York at the end of the list," Governor Cuomo said, discussing President Trump's remarks on over New York receiving the COVID-19 vaccine last. "I don't trust the president. I don't trust the FDA. They've lied about COVID from day one." Even the current president questioned the administration's process for approving a coronavirus vaccine while expressing broad confidence vaccines in the scientists who create and vet them. "I trust vaccines. I trust the science, but I don't trust the president." So were they as much adding to the anti-vax misinformation as what's being touted by this exact administration as being an issue on Facebook? You can't call a spade unless you can't walk the walk unless you walk the walk yourself, right? Of course, they're not talking about how 5 of those folks that escaped Texas, or those political folks, have got COVID now because they were on an airplane ride. The rest of us were required to wear a mask. They flew on a private jet that didn't. And the vice president went and met with the maskless, which everyone's doing, of course, now. No doubt, no fault for that. But 5 of those folks got COVID. So did they take the vaccine? And it leads me by the response I got from the last show was, Todd, leave the politics out of this. Well, everything's political now. Everything. When the president said originally that Facebook is killing people, then retracted, did a 180, and said Facebook isn't killing people, but misinformation is causing harm, he's clearing up his statements on Facebook moderation. He partially walked back a statement made last week in which he told reporters that platforms like Facebook were killing people by allowing misinformation. My hope is that Facebook, instead of taking it personally, they would do something about misinformation. And again, they were giving and have gave Facebook guidance on how to stop the undermining of anti-vaxxers. Again, the White House ramped up its fight against vaccine information, statements, and reports directly tying social media platforms like Facebook to rising coronavirus case numbers, and asked a question about social media on Friday. Again, say social media was killing people, and the only pandemic we have is among the unvaccinated, and they're killing people. A Facebook spokesperson defended the company's action against vaccine information. We will not be distracted by accusations which aren't supported by facts, the spokesperson said. The facts show that Facebook is helping save lives, period. Apparently, tensions between the White House and Facebook have been escalating for months. And again, administration officials presented Facebook with crowd-tangled data that suggested vaccine misinformation was increasing on the platform, but Facebook has refused to share any of its own data. Again, they're trying to guilt them into doing more. Now, again, is that censorship when someone has a different opinion? I guess it all depends on the context of the commentary that's being talked about. This show, from day one, has been an advocate for freedom of speech. You may not like what I say or someone else says, but they have the right to say it, and you have the right to make an informed decision based upon your own knowledge of what's going on in the world and sources that you look at on whether you believe something that's been put on the web. But people have the right to have freedom of expression and express how they feel. Now, if they're stating flat out falsehoods, and Facebook as a company figures that out, then they have all right to take that content down along with their content administration guidelines. My point from the last show was you can't tell press, you can't tell social media companies, the government can't tell them how to do their jobs. Can you imagine Facebook coming back and going after the press secretary and her responses to reporters as putting out misinformation? Can you imagine the hoopla? There is a separation in this country. At least here in the United States. Businesses can run and do as they please as long as they run within the confines of the law. And there will be, in today's age, there will be thoughts on whether or not they're doing a good job, bad job. If there's a cancel culture type of action taken against a company and so forth. I'm not a fan of a lot of stuff Facebook does. Don't get me wrong. But when the government tells them what to do, tells them they need to start censoring people and gives them a list, I don't know how we all cannot react negatively to that. And think about our civil liberties being infringed upon. The government is telling Facebook to shut people up. If that doesn't scare the living hell out of all of you, maybe this isn't the show for you. You know, I spent 25 years in the United States Navy, going to the worst armpits in the world and some very nice places as well, and following the orders that were given to me to protect our way of life here in the United States. And when again, I've always said, you can say whatever you want. There may be consequences for what you say. I may not agree with what you have to say. I may vehemently argue with you about what you say. I may not do business with you based upon what you say. I may sue you based upon what you say, but guess what? You have the right to say it. So, again, if this was someone that had their own website, some.com, and they were putting this so-called misinformation out, there's nothing that they can do to that .com. There's nothing they can do. Whereas, because the U.S. government now thinks they can put a thumb on Facebook, Twitter, all these other companies to start moderating. Think about that. The government requesting moderation, content moderation. Again, this is what I'm going back to. That's wrong. If Facebook wants to content moderate that and they do that on their own and they make their own decision, it's their platform. They do what they want. But if the government tells you, you shall not print this, imagine them going to the New York Times. Let's just flip it around. Let's go to the New York Times. I don't care what administration. This stuff is scary. Let's say they go to the New York Times and they tell the newspaper, you can't print that article. You can't. It's got misinformation in it. You can't print it. And they didn't? Would you think the same way? Would you absolutely freak out? Now, there are certain circumstances where newspapers have been asked not to run something because it was of a classified nature and it was going to harm people throughout the world or in clandestine jobs or the spy game or whatever it may have been. And sometimes those newspapers have complied with that. Not always. So please understand, it's not about politics. If the previous administration had done the same thing, I would have been, whoa, 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 whoa. So you can't have your cake and eat it too. Everyone has to be held accountable. So I hope you're okay with that. But I will continue to be an advocate for free speech. At the same time, I can badmouth Facebook for the way they do their own moderation. Because I can have my cake and I can eat it too. But you can't be the government and tell private business what to do. That to me is scary, especially anyone developing their own content, the press, television, radio. I can't imagine if my company got a letter from the government telling us we had to moderate misinformation on podcast. I have a shredder. It's not me to be the policing of speech. I'll flip it around here. The Biden administration on Monday blamed China for the cyber attack on the Microsoft Exchange email server software earlier this year. They followed the EU, the UK, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, Japan, and NATO, who also criticized this malicious cyber activity. Separately, the Justice Department of Money announced the charges against 4 Chinese nationals who allegedly worked with the ministry. This ministry is the, what do they call themselves? It's the Ministry of State Security. They hack and they go after information. Separately, Justice Department of Money announced the charges against 4 Chinese nationals in a hacking campaign that ran from 2000 to 2018. It targeted companies, universities, government entities, with the goal of stealing intellectual property and business information to help out Chinese companies. So, Tom Burt, Microsoft Corporate Vice President for Customer Security and Trust, said in a statement emailed to CNET, the governments involved in this attribution have taken an important and positive step that will contribute to our collective security. Transparency is critical if we are to combat raising cyber attacks we see across the planet against individuals, organizations, and nations. But these contract hackers by the Chinese cost governments, not just the United States, governments and businesses billions of dollars in stolen intellectual property. The Chinese love to steal IP because they largely can't do it on their own. They copy everything. Ransom payments and cybersecurity mitigation efforts, all while the MSS, Ministry of State Security, had them on the payroll. So when are we going to do something more drastic against these organizations? Remember, I have nothing against the Chinese people at all. Nothing whatsoever. They're just like you and I. They put their pants on in the morning and go to work. They support their families, have kids, have the same challenges we all do. But the government, in my opinion, is about as evil as it comes. Human rights violations, ghosting people that disappear, never to be seen again, just taken off the street. People that are of Chinese descent that live here in the United States who do dissident work, being threatened by Chinese government against family members back at home. It goes on and on and on and on. Because you live in America as of Chinese descent, and you start talking smack about China, they're going to go look and see if you have family still there, and they're going to go tell your family there. You need to have a talk with whoever is making waves here in the United States or in another country. You don't think they don't do that? That's what they do. So their reach is far. And of course, now we're hearing more about finally, they're starting to admit, well, this coronavirus was not natured. It was basically manufactured. And finally, that's coming out. And it was downplayed so much before. Oh, it was impossible. It could have been that. It had to be from a wet market. So, you know my opinion on that. We've been down this road a long time. And, of course, because of coronavirus, people are working from home for a long time, and now Apple employees reportedly are pushing for more work-from-home options. And of course, Apple executives want the employees back in the office at least 3 times a week starting in September. And many do not want that. All 5 of the most highly valued companies in the world come from tech, but all but one are worth more than $1 trillion, give or take a few $1 billion, depending on the day. Of course, today's stock market crash because of the next wave that's coming, where we're all being locked down before November, mark my words. And a lot of that perceived value is based on Wall Street's belief in aggressive innovation that seeks out new ideas, and do that innovation. They think people need to be together. And Apple and Facebook and those, they want their employees to be working in the offices. You know, these companies are known for luxurious offices, free food, nap pods, child care, transportation. I mean, come on now. Coffee, everything you want. Perks that are unbelievable. Those perks account for about $20,000 a year in value to these companies. Each employee at Apple, and they spend about $20,000 on employee per perks. And these folks don't want to come back to work. So they got a new petition going asking for more flexibility. Among the requests, the petition asked for local and remote pilot arrangements that would give employees the options to work remotely from their home or remotely in another area 5 days a week with approval of their manager. In return, in some cases, the letter suggested a cost of living compensation adjustment. In other words, if you've left Silicon Valley and you went to Montana, well, your pay is going to go down. Interesting. Because guess what? They're not going to make $180,000 a year living in Montana working for Apple or Google or Facebook. Not going to happen. So we'll see what happens with this. And I know many of you have businesses and you're all having challenges with these types of discussions within your own companies. We've got an in-office Wednesday thing going on for my team. And everyone still has the option to work home the other days. So we get the team together 1 day a week in the office. We'll see how that goes for a few months. But with the market the way it is, employers are scared to put the hammer down and bring people back to the office. So moving on here. Oh, I should have covered this earlier. The U.S. Surgeon General has doubled down on Facebook bashing amid vaccination misinformation. And he did not explicitly call out Facebook, but he did allude to some of the site's features, including like button sharing and logarithms that pull us deeper and deeper into well of misinformation. He laid out 6-pronged strategy for fighting it, blah, blah, blah. So again, the administration is full on attack. And so we'll see. And but what say you? I think we all can agree if the information is wrong, really wrong. There's probably let's have some reasonability to it. If someone is expressing their opinion, I think everyone's cool with someone expressing their opinion. But when you start laying out information that may not be right, that has a right to be fact-checked. Jeff Bezos gets launched into space. The richest man in the world and 3 others are set for liftoff Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. So he's riding with a motley crew of 3 other passengers. His brother, Mark, 82-year-old aviation icon Wally Funk, and it's a she, and the 18-year-old Dutch high school grad Oliver Damien. Now, this 18-year-old will be the youngest person to ever go into space. I don't know what the story on the youngest passenger. He's a bit of a mystery. And Damien's father, Joost Damien, is the founder and CEO of a private equity firm based in the Netherlands. Had participated in the Blue Origin auction, was poised to fly a next Shepard mission, but gave his seat to his son. So Bezos said, "We know the vehicle is safe. If the vehicle is not safe for me, it's not safe for anyone." Bezos told CNN in an interview Monday morning, Blue Origin wouldn't have had any use for test pilots on its crew capsule. The company CEO Bob Smith said, "We didn't see any value, quite honestly, from doing things stepwise in that approach. Seeing that this is an autonomous vehicle, there's really nothing for a crew member to do." I guess they flew 52 flights before putting warm bodies in the seats. But anyway, 9 a.m., you get to watch the ride be streamed live. Hey, Good job to the NASA team. Hubble telescope is back in action. It has been restored. Last week, engineers began switching over to backup hardware in a bid to get one of the most important research tools in history up and running. It was the worst malfunction in years to hit the venerated observatory. The Hubble team, from current members to the Hubble alumni who stepped in to lend their support and expertise, thanks to their dedication and thoughtful work, Hubble will continue to build on its 31-year legacy, but it is on backup gear. They had to switch some circuits out. So those poor scientists that waited for years for their, 2-3 hours of time on Hubble will be rescheduled for a later date. It's really bad because the time on that telescope is highly limited. And so when you're trying to do science and you can't, and you've been waiting a long time, it's got to be a huge disappointment. People wait years for literally minutes or hours of operation on the telescope. Okay, a little lighter subject. What's new on Hulu in August? I've got that link in the show notes for you to check out. And also, there's a rumor out that the Google Pixel, there could be a foldable, could launch this year with Samsung's best display tech. So a Pixel foldable sounds quite likely. Rumors point to a 7.6-inch folding LTPO display at 120 hertz. The device could launch this year amid a bevy of foldable from other companies like Oppo and Samsung. So keep our eyes out for that. Google is offering Pixel 4 XL users an extended repair program. Google discontinued the phone last year, but owners may be eligible to receive a free fix for battery-related issues. So if you have a Pixel 4 XL and it's got battery problems, you might be able to get it fixed, but not all owners are eligible, and not every issue is covered by the program. So customers in Canada, Japan, Singapore, Taiwan, and the United States are eligible for the program only. So if you live outside one of those countries, you're out of luck. Found a real cool article, or Kirk did, over on the BBC, talking about how the Royal Navy is testing drones above and below waves. So I thought that was kind of cool. The below waves one was kind of cool. The above, we know that drones have been used a lot. But they say swarms of military drones have accompanied Royal Marines both above and below the water in the Royal Navy's first test of new combat technology. Now, if you think about this, why not have an eye in the sky? And, I did this for years. Except we were in a much bigger airplane doing left-hand turns, helping. I guess that's the best word I can call it. Marines tested stealthy reconnaissance drones, heavy lift resupply models, and a self-driving boat. Officers said the autonomous advanced force test of how humans and machines could work together have seen phenomenal progress in recent years, but the use of autonomous technology in a battlefield remains controversial, of course, because drones, even little small ones, can be weaponized. And, if I think about it, if you can have a drone that's 6, 7, 800 feet up in the air with an eyes view, or even lower, eyes view of the battlefield and what's going on, movement of people, repositioning of bad guys, why not? Why not use this technology to protect forces on the ground and allow them to live another day? There's an international arms race with countries like the U.S., Russia, China, Israel, and Australia to, we've had drones, but our drones are, little, the big drones, have a pilot and someone that's running the weapon system on board. So, but these are like little itty bitty ones. So this is pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff. They did resupplying. You can imagine that. You need a resupply. You can't get a chop. Let's say you need just ammo resupply. And you can bring in 20, 30 pounds of ammo on a run. In a small drone, do a flyby, drop the ammo off, go back, get another one. They shoot it out of the sky. So what? Cheap replacement in government terms. I think this is the future. You need medical equipment in, medical supplies, whatever it may be, food, lunch. So drones have a lot of utilization and very low impact. Because before you have to fire up a helicopter, bring a load of stem, and then all guns are aimed at the helicopter. That's what happened in Vietnam. It's happened in Afghanistan. So you bring something in that, if you lose it, yeah, it's a little bit of money, but it's just smart way to operate. And, takes care of the guys on the ground. Amazon Web Services ban accounts linked with the Pegasus spyware. So AWS has banned an NSO Group, the company behind the Pegasus spyware program. Vice reported the ban this morning, and the day after, a sweeping report alleged Pegasus was used to target the phones of human rights activists and journalists. An Amnesty International investigation into Pegasus said the tool compromised targets' phones and routed data through commercial services like AWS and Amazon CloudFront, a move that it said protects NSO Group from some internet scanning techniques. A Vice 2020 report previously described NSO using Amazon services. Amnesty International wrote that it had contacted Amazon about NSO, and Amazon responded by banning the NSO-related accounts. Amazon said, when we learned of this activity, we acted quickly to shut down the relevant infrastructure and accounts, an Amazon Web Services spokesperson confirmed to The Verge. AWS wasn't the only service the NSO apparently used. The Amnesty International report linked it with several other companies, including DigitalOcean, Linode. I like using Linode for testing stuff. It's really Linode. You can run a Linux box, a small one, for just, you can turn it up, turn it down. I use Linode quite a bit from time to time. So it's a great way to have an external, and you don't have to be an expert at all, and just bring up a Linux instance. Anyway, NSO allegedly favors servers in Europe and the United States. So NSO describes Pegasus as a tool for surveilling terrorists and cyber criminals. But, boy, oh boy, said some governments deployed it indiscriminately against political figures, dissidents, and journalists. That included attempting or completing attacks on 37 phones belonging to targets like New York Times, Associated Press, as well as 2 women close to the murdered Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. The NSO has objected to the report, calling it full of wrong assumptions and uncorroborated theories. So, but AWS pulled the plug on them. Google has delayed an app billing crackdown after a wave of U.S. antitrust laws. The Play Store apps were supposed to switch to Google billing by September 30th, but because they've been sued by dozens of state attorney generals over its Play Store policies just a week later, the company is essentially delaying the enforcement of one of its most significant upcoming changes. They say that developers can now request a 6-month extension to the deadline. So we'll see what happens here. With this. So they got until March 31, 2022 to comply with their new payment policy. So hopefully it gives them time to battle off the government. Those of you who have a Tesla, Tesla's rolled out the $200 monthly subscription for full self-driving. This pisses a lot of Tesla people off because the only option previously was an upfront $10,000 package. However, not all of the Tesla faithful are happy about it. Some vague language on Tesla's part means that vehicles marketed as having autopilot capabilities may need an additional $1,500 hardware upgrade to use FSD. So all Tesla vehicles come with basic self-driving, but the full self-driving package adds advanced features like navigation on autopilot, summon, and lane changing on autopilot. So $200 a month. I guess if you're going on a long trip, you could get it for the long trip and then cancel it the following month. But it's all about the options, baby. When you get ready to buy the car, you used to say, do you want the FM radio too? Oh, would you like a cassette deck in that? Oh, we're really going to hook you up. You're going to get AM, FM, and a CD player. And then later it became the upgrade option was, oh, this thing has Bluetooth. Yes, it's all about the car options. Yep, you want the basic model with the seats that are cloth, or do you want the leather seats? You know that the price difference in that stuff is very, very minimal, but boy, they make their money on those upgrades. All right, NASA astronauts are spicing up the International Space Station by growing chili peppers on board for the first time. So, what are they? What kind of chili peppers are they growing? Now, let's look here. They're growing red and green chili peppers for the first time. It's the Hatch chili pepper, and it arrived at the station in June. And they're raising how many? 48 seeds in a device called a science carrier, which has clay for roots to grow in a specifically formally controlled release fertilizer. And the device slots into the advanced plant habitat, one of 3 plant growth chambers on board. So they got these big, they're going to have nice, juicy red and green chili peppers. Some of them will be eaten on board the station, and some will come back to Earth for examination. So very, very cool. Nothing like a little spice for life. Okay, some of you love the Louis Vuitton brand. I must admit, I had a fascination with Louis Vuitton for years. Could never afford their bags or wallets or anything because it's just, again, crazy money. Japanese and a lot of people love Louis Vuitton stuff. But Louis Vuitton has a $2,890 light-up speaker. Looks like something that Thanos would steal. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm looking at this. It's cool. It lays on its side or it stands up, and it can be carried as an accessory. $2,890. Okay. Between the glass, stainless steel, and leather construction, 35 LEDs and the brand's traditional symbols and logos plastered on virtually every surface of the speaker. The over effect is less than the kind of discreet high-end speaker that companies like Bang and Olufsen are known for, and this is more of the see what I have and see what you don't have type of view. So please, if you have more money than common sense, do an insider donation to the show first before you go off and spend $2,890 for a Louis Vuitton light-up speaker. Warby Parker's Vision Test app can help renew your glass prescription. You may not need to visit a clinic. Okay, let me be very clear here. For someone that goes to the optometrist twice a year because of a family, number one, because of my type 2 diabetes. Number 2, because my family has a history of glaucoma. My grandmother had macular degeneration. So for me, with those risk factors involved, I go to the optometrist twice a year. And you may not need to do that. Some of you may have never been to an optometrist. Maybe you've been to a store and they just had you read the letter chart and you got some glasses. I understand that. But a optometrist visit and checkup is really one of those things you should do, at least annually. If you have an insurance plan, matter of fact, most health insurance plans that are offered for vision is pretty inexpensive. I think I pay about $50 a month on a VSP. That's what I have as a VSP. It's a great insurance for vision. Covers the checkups, gives me $150 credit on glasses. It's really a great program. But anyway, Warby Parker is trying out its virtual vision test, a revamp of its prescription checkup app that lets you renew glasses or contact lens prescriptions using only an iPhone or your existing eyewear. Prop up your phone, stand 10 feet away, and he walk you through a familiar can you read this test that will gauge whether or not your glasses or contacts need updating. The update isn't automatic. An eye doctor will review the results and give you a verdict within 2 days. If you're seeing well enough, you just need to pay $15 to renew. And if you're struggling or just aren't eligible to use the app, Warby Parker will recommend you get a thorough eye exam, because it's really important, because every eyeball is different, and a good exam is better, worse, better, worse, better, worse, clear, best, read line 7, and you know how it goes. So I think that go see your optometrist, get your prescription there, make sure your eyes are good. There are many people that listen to the show that are vision impaired that would probably agree with me. Dish will pay AT&T $5 billion to serve its mobile customers. So AT&T is set to handle voice calls, data, and message for Boost Mobile, Ting, and Republic Wireless. So this is big. So Dish Boost Mobile, Ting, and Republic Wireless customers they're going to service them for the next 10 years. Dish plans to pay AT&T at least $5 billion as part of the deal, according to filing with the Securities and Exchange Commission. To serve the customers of both companies, AT&T may be able to use parts of the wireless spectrum to which Dish holds licenses, as the Wall Street Journal notes. Before now, T-Mobile provided services to nearly 9 million customers of Dish Mobile brands. So let me talk about when I switch over to T-Mobile on my iPhone. It was okay, except the signal at the house is not that great. It really isn't. It's like I have to be on Wi-Fi. I need a booster because my mom has a booster out in our barn, and T-Mobile works great. So I need to get probably a booster at the house. Android TV gets new Google TV features. A few modern tools are coming to older TVs with Google OS. So just be aware of that. You may be getting an update. The system may update a little bit, and you get a better look. Not everything is coming, but you'll get Google TV features on your older Android TV. So it's kind of a incremental jump to help you, until your TV explodes and you need to go buy a new one. Uber is expanding its grocery delivery service to more than 400 cities and towns. The service now covers major markets like San Francisco, New York City, and Washington, D.C. But again, 400 cities and towns now are qualified for this grocery delivery service. The rapid expansion was partly fueled by a partnership with Albertson Companies and its 1,200 grocery stores across the country. Albertson owns the brands Safeway, Joel Osco, Acme, Tom Thumb, and Randos. Uber also delivers from regional chains such as Southeastern Groceries and New York Red Apple Group. Uber Pass and Eat subscribers don't need to pay delivery fees on grocery orders over $30. So there you go. IBM shows its strongest revenue IBM shows its strongest revenue growth in 3 years. They surpassed expectations on the top and bottom lines. The company spent $1.7 billion in acquisitions in the quarter. Didn't hear too much about that, did you? But anyway, they had earnings of $2.33 per share, adjusted versus $2.29 as expected. Revenue of $18.75 billion versus $18.29 billion as expected. Revenue grew 3% year over year in the quarter, according to the statement, the fastest growth in 3 years as the company lapsed a quarter that saw a meaningful impact from the coronavirus. So, nice job, IBM. Big Blue continues to go. If you're in the UK and you have a vaccine passport app, well, it's broke. The QR codes are broke on popular Android phones. The QR code gets cut off. The NHS app bug is affecting phones like the Samsung Galaxy S21. May cause you problems. So make sure you print your QR code from your computer before you go somewhere, or you might be screwed. So just be aware of this. You have to show that this app, there's an app for that. The NHS app has a bug. So it affects S21, S20 Ultra, Galaxy A72, OnePlus 8T, OnePlus 9, and OnePlus 9 Pro. Other models tested by Android Central included the Google Pixel 5, Pixel 4a, 5G, Asus Zen 4 8, Oppo Find X2, and Xiaomi Mi 11 Ultra. They were not affected by the glitch. So the bug only affects COVID pass QR codes generated for travel as opposed to the use for domestic events within the UK. So just be aware that there's a bug. You may not be able to use the QR code on the app. Zoom is buying a cloud call center for $14.7 billion. We use Zoom for our corporate phone enterprise. We use it for our meeting systems. My company's fully integrated with using Zoom. Zoom is the company they purchased, Five9, is more of a B2B thing. So I'm going to be curious what that means for us going forward. But they said most consumers will not realize or be able to, get any of the features that are going to see any of the features from this acquisition. A lot of money to spend. Robinhood is seeking a market valuation as high as $35 billion in upcoming IPO. So we'll see whether or not that happens. They're looking to sell 55 million shares that range from as much as 55 million shares. They could get between $38 and $42 per share. So, of course, none of us will get on that. The iPhone 13 SE is first expected in the first half of 2022. So if you're looking forward to that increment update of the iPhone. And it's being a good, story that makes you feel good. The iPhone camera detects a rare eye cancer in a 3-month-old boy. According to a report, a 41-year Jose Rock was taking photos of her 3-month-old son Asher. When she went back to read the photo, she noticed that one of Asher's eyes were glowing white, which she immediately suspected was cancer. But on further testing, her fears were confirmed. It was discovered that the baby had a rare form of eye cancer known as grade D retinoblastoma. But so far, the baby's had a number of treatments, who's now 7 years old, is undergoing 54 exams, still alive, still can see. So that was a thing just from an iPhone picture. So one of those really cool stories from the system. Okay, so let me go back. And before we get out of here, I have some email that's come in. Richard said, oh, Richard, so you're a Ohio State fan? Okay. So he says, and OH, go Bucks. And then he follows up, hey, Todd, you'll love T-Mobile. I left Old Red 7 years ago. I've never looked back. T-Mobile just gets better and better every year. Thanks, Richard, for that. I appreciate it. Got an email from Rob. He said, he says, and so to go back to what he says, hey, Todd, I hear you spiel about social media being censored by government. I get your point. I'm not here to argue anything. My issue involves the ideas that since social media started being a thing some 20 years ago, there's been so much misinformation. As a scientist and teacher, I think a decent guy, this bothers me. We have the right to free speech. Do we have the right to yell fire in a crowded auditorium, causing a stampede that could kill people? I think that's, maybe it's a good analogy. Again, you can yell fire, but you are going to pay for those consequences. The FG, former guy as George Conway calls him, once touted hydroxychloroquine as a wonder drug. Someone heard that, found something in their supply of aquarium chemicals that sounded like it the same thing, took a dose and died. Well, of course, we know that. Misinformation is being spread that is killing people. Yes, people decide for themselves what to do with their lives, but the advice is killing them and could kill others around them. Even if we are vaccinated, we can still get sick. Just as we get a flu shot, we are protected, but there's still a chance of getting sick. But again, lots of people don't get a flu shot every year. Misinformation is a dangerous thing. What if someone learned to drive after watching YouTube clips? They do out to drive and kill someone. Oops, I should have watched the videos where they don't drive on the left side of the road. Anyway, enjoying your shows. I respect your opinion. Just started giving monthly donations. Rob, we appreciate it and you over in Ontario. And I'm glad. And by the way, he says, I should have added, you also mentioned lockdowns up here in the Great White North. Actually, we're opening up restaurants and gyms, movie theaters in Ontario, just opened yesterday. We're going through the stages of opening. There are always some people that kick back against the limits, but many like ourselves are just fine with it. My sister's a nurse in New Jersey, and I'm sure she feels the same way. Overall, I think you would find a poll of Canadians likes what the government is doing. We live in a tourist area in a very small town. There are very few resources here and only a tiny hospital. We have no desire to see a flood of people coming in to lead us into the fourth wave. As they say, slow and steady wins the race. I'd rather stay locked down to some degree rather than open up too fast and invite a new phase of the pandemic. Well, the stock market today reacted to the to the possibility of a fourth wave, and stocks were down. I don't know if I read this on the last show. He says the BB toilet system you discussed should be installed in every government building, should be able to power the country since so many politicians are full of beep. That I agree with too. And did I miss? All right, I may have missed. Anyway, to the listener, longtime listener that's been here a long time, I just call it the way I call it. And if it sounds political, I'm sorry. It's just, and again, I've tried to be an equal opportunity basher depending on which administration's in office, and they do stupid stuff like this. So I guess, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I'm just going to call it out when I see it. All right, everyone. Going to get out of here. Geeknews@gmail.com, geeknews@gmail.com. Of course, don't forget about the sponsor, geeknewscentral.com/GoDaddy. I'm at Geek News on Twitter. And, of course, drop me an email anytime. Love these comments coming in. Richard, Rob, Robert, Darren, Peter. You guys are firing it up. That's what I like. I like to hear it. Comments come back, feedback. It always allows me to give perspective what you guys are thinking. So, everyone be good, be safe, take care of each other, have fun, enjoy what we have of the summer left, because who knows what comes next. But it's been my pleasure to bring the show to you. I'll be back here on Thursday with another edition of the Geek News Central podcast. Everyone take care. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.